everyone, my name is Patrick Furlow, and this is Annie Furlow, our little pug Olive.
We have Olive.
And we're here today with Ashley Vogel of Giving Tree Garden, and today we're just really going to talk all things landscape. With Ashley and Giving Tree, we hired her recently to do our landscape for our yard. It had been years in the making, and we finally were able to get it taken care of, and we're just super pleased with the way it looks and the way it's turned out. So we just wanted to kind of introduce the city and the county to you and your services and what you can do to help other people achieve their landscape dreams.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
So, Ashley, we would like to get started by just saying, why did you name your company The Giving Tree?
So Giving Tree, as you probably know, is a book, and it was like a children's book I love reading to my kids. And part of my business model is giving back. So I wanted to incorporate the Giving Tree into my garden. You know, Giving Tree Garden is a landscape. I previously had a woodworking business called Giving Tree Handmade.
Oh, cool.
And so it just keeps all that in the same
Nice.
family.
See, I didn't even know that, so I'm glad I
I
asked that question.
didn't know you were a woodworker as well.
It used to be, yeah.
Pat's dad is a woodworker, so
Oh, yeah.
that's like a huge talent.
It's a good hobby. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah, that's great. So I would just like to say we took 7 years to do our landscaping, which was way too long, and I'm going to apologize to all my neighbors for that. But landscaping makes such a huge difference, not only for the house, but also for neighborhoods in general. And we've had so many compliments on our landscaping, and because it was really bad, you guys. It was bad before, and now it looks so good. It's so professionally done, and we're like really proud of our house now as well.
Yeah.
So for like buyers and sellers in the real estate market, a lot of people just think it's about the house itself and the inside of the house, but it really starts with the landscape in your yard.
Right.
What are some like easy things that homeowners can do that's not going to cost a fortune, but it's going to make a huge difference when they're going to sell their house?
Right. So, you know, I always explain it like you have the picture, which is the house, but adding a beautiful frame to it just brings the whole piece of art together. And some simple tips, like if you're buying or selling a home, shade trees. We live in Florida, and it gets real hot.
Yeah.
So if you trees add value, particularly shade trees, if you can use those in ways to block the sun coming in and like heating up your house, you know, it's going to help you save money in the long run. So your AC isn't running like double time. But just especially even if your budget isn't huge, just concentrating along the front door. I feel like even just a few flowers around the walkway, even some planters, framing the front door, like make that your moment. So when people, you know, focus on your front door, are coming up, your guests see this, you know, color, and it's
alive.
Yes, it's alive. Right,
It
exactly.
feels like it has character.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, we go to a lot of houses to preview them, and I always tell people a really easy thing to do too is mulch. Like a lot of people forget to mulch. Like they may have really beautiful landscaping, but it just kind of looks a little weedy.
And mulching is something, unfortunately, I mean, it breaks down. It's an organic material. It breaks down, especially in our Florida sun, and it gets washed away in rain. I think you should definitely plan on mulching, no matter what material you use, you know, pine bark, cypress mulch, pine straw, at least once a year. And even just that refresh brings a little pop of color and helps the plants to stand out from the rest of the yard.
Yes.
So.
And what time of year is a really good time to mulch for those that are living in your houses?
I mean, you can mulch anytime. A great time that I like to do it, just because it's not so hot when you're doing it, is in the winter. So mulch will act as like if we get a frost, you know, it'll help protect the roots of the plants.
Okay.
So it kind of acts like a blanket over it, but then also in the summer, it helps retain moisture. So in the long run, mulching saves you money because your plants aren't dying as quickly, drying out, and you're not losing them in frost as often.
Oh.
So
So it does serve a purpose besides just being pretty.
Yeah.
So
Right.
see, I'm learning
Yes.
something today
And
too.
I love the heavier mulch, especially if you live in a front yard with like a lot of oak trees like we have.
Right.
And those leaves come off either in the fall or the spring.
Right.
And when you're blowing stuff around, you're not blowing your mulch away with your leaves. The leaves kind
Right.
of skirt off the top, and you can get them into the yard, and the
Right.
mulch will stay, so you can kind of elongate that.
Yeah, and definitely talking to someone, you know, like a landscape designer or someone about what type of mulch would be good for your area. Because if you deal with heavy erosion or a slope, pine bark probably wouldn't be a great choice because it's very light and water picks it up and carries it down, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I wanted to ask you about your landscape designer background.
yeah.
For us, I know there's gardeners, there's landscape designers, there's just people that can kind of help you with your landscaping. For us, we knew we wanted to take on more of a larger project with our
Right.
front and side yards and our backyard. So we kind of wanted to go the professional route to make sure we were doing it the right way.
Right.
What's the difference between like a landscape designer and more of a gardener or someone who can just kind of do it like on their own?
Right. So there's a lot. I mean, we're in Florida. There's a lot of landscapers out there who are great. They have like a rotation of maybe 5 or 7 plants, and they're like, "This is what we're gonna do," and it'll look fine. My approach is I love entertaining people. I love being outside, and I like hosting outside. I love welcoming people, and so for me, the outside is like an extension of the inside. And I mean, you're paying for your property, not just your house, and so use it to its fullest extent. Do you want a lounge area outside? Do you want a dining area? What do you want to use your property for? And I feel very passionate about helping people fall in love with their property, and making it kind of like an outdoor room, an outdoor living space.
Just an extension of the house on the inside, bringing it to the outside.
Right. That's always the first question I ask people is like, what do you want to use your property for? You know, not everyone has the budget to put in a pool, you know, or a spa, but okay, do you want to do a little fire pit area? Do you and your family love roasting marshmallows when it's cold outside? Do you and your friends want to hang out under a pergola with a glass of wine, you know?
Yeah.
So let's make it tailored to you and your lifestyle.
I love that. And for us, I know when we started this project, we're very landscape dumb. When it comes to what we, do
are.
for
Like,
our
I'm
profession,
great on the
you know,
interiors, but
Yeah.
I am like really
the
bad on
opposite,
the
yeah.
exterior.
everyone has an expertise in what they do, right? We're
Yeah.
experts in our professions, you're
Right.
experts in your professions, but we were not going to go out there and try to pick our own plants. Like we've
Sure.
had some ideas that we wanted to
actually
go
did
with.
go to a couple of
Yeah,
nurseries.
we tried to
that were
pick
like,
out what
can
we
do
wanted.
this.
Yeah.
I know how to
Yeah.
do like, tall, medium, low, and everything.
Right, right.
I went out there. I was so overwhelmed. I had no
Right.
idea what takes west sun, east sun.
Yeah.
It can be overwhelming, and the plant tags that you see at Lowe's and Home Depot aren't always accurate because it will say full sun. Florida full sun is not
Different.
the same
Yes.
as full sun elsewhere. And so while it might look good for a few weeks, I really like to use perennials, that are going to come back year after year. If you're investing a lot of money, the majority of your landscape should be perennials, so you don't have to redo
Right.
all of your
All the
beds
time.
every
We
year.
wanted things that weren't going to, be easy to kill because we're
Right.
not great at keeping plants alive,
Yeah.
and that would be low maintenance, but
Right.
Florida friendly.
Right.
I know that you talked to us a little bit earlier about, picking landscape that has some kind of Florida essence or elements
Right.
to it that thrive in this area versus picking something that's out of region,
Right.
and just because it looks pretty and then having a hard time keeping it alive. Like,
Totally.
how do you go about doing that and making sure that you choose the right things for different sides of the house?
Right. And so, when people hear native plants, a lot of them picture like a litter box. Like it's going to look scraggly and weedy and
Yeah.
and while there's ways to incorporate native plants or native swaps that I like to use. And the reason for that is not only it's like the plants are literally adapted to our region. So drought, humidity, heat, I mean they grow here. This is what they do, as opposed to taking a plant that really is happier a little further north or a little further south and can't take the frost that we get, but also monetarily, I mean, watering. You have to run your irrigation a lot more for certain plants that are not adapted to our area, and so your water bill goes way up. Whereas native plants are used to handling our droughts, and then on the contrary, our floods that we get, you know, when it's rainy season. So picking the right plant for the right place. And with Florida, you have to consider, like, some places are really dry, some places are really boggy. Some places are going to get blasted with full sun all day. Some places are under oak trees and have a lot of shade. So I want to make sure all those plants are adapted for that place in your yard so that you're not wasting your money.
And that's really good to know too, because let's just say we have friends that came over and love everything that you've done, but they live in a new construction neighborhood.
Right.
It might not be what's going to survive
Right.
in their environment like it does
Sure.
here with the big oaks. So
Right, exactly. You've got beautiful live oaks in your front yard, and new construction, they tend to, like, clear out
Yeah.
everything.
Yes,
and-
nobody wants those leaves. They're such a pain.
Sure.
it's great for our energy bills though. But
Right, right. So,
It's not for raking.
and I've had a lot of people show me pictures, like on Pinterest, that they found, or a picture of a neighbor's house, and say, this is what I want it to look like. Or they fall in love with a Mediterranean garden. They fall in love with an English style garden. And while I love doing all the different themes, usually I'll say I love it, and I'm going to recreate it using plants that are going to be happier in our climate,
Yeah.
you know?
And I love what you did, creating your 3D model of us kind of telling you how we thought we wanted it to look, and then you playing off of that and taking our vision and getting innovative with it, and then bringing that to life. But
Right.
can you talk to the folks and us more about, like, what went into that planning and how you made it look so realistic and good versus just kind of like an old school 3D art? Like, this was like next level type thing.
I mean,
Yeah.
it came with the video and everything.
Yeah.
So
My
we
software is
immediately.
super bougie. Yes. I mean, it's almost like a video game for me. I'm kind of like a video game nerd when I was a kid, so it's fun for me. But at the starting point, it's like if you've been in your house for any length of time, you kind of, like, as interior designers, you kind of know people go blind to the possibilities.
Yes.
They see the same thing all day, every day, and they can't really picture anymore what the possibilities are, or what could be. And so I'm coming in with fresh eyes thinking, you have this beautiful blank space over here, why don't we use that? And most of the time the people are like, I never even thought about using that space because it's been blank forever, you know? And so I really like my 3D software because I can create this little world that is their property, and they can look at it, they can walk through it, they can see what it would look like with landscape lighting, and what it looks like at sunset, what it would look like in the morning, and you know, and even dropping furniture in there on the hardscapes or by the pool helps you get a sense of proportion.
Yeah.
Because there's been a couple times people will say, I really want an 8x10 patio. And I'm like, okay, that's great. And then I put it in my program, and you can't fit any furniture on there at all. And then they realize, oh, it really needs to be like a 15x20 patio
Yes.
or whatever. And so I think it's smart to see it before you commit to the materials, before you go out and buy, you know, your pavers, before you sign a contract, you know, with someone else to install it. You really just know what you want, because the worst would be to put in what you think you want and then either have to add on to it or change it altogether.
Yeah. I know when we first got our pool installed, we had somebody come, and they weren't a professional, but they were cheap, so we did learn our lesson. And they did our landscaping in the back and on our side yard. It lasted for 2 years, and it started looking really bad, really
Right.
like leggy, like the bushes you could tell were cheap.
Right,
Some of the flowers that they planted, they all died.
right,
And so, but we had no idea what to ask for.
right.
And so meeting you, and you really took charge of that meeting with us, and you were asking us so many questions. I'm like, I didn't even know I needed to know this, you know, or give you an answer about some of
Right.
these things. And so you really dug deep into, like you said earlier, like our personalities, how we live in our house, what we want to use our space for.
Are you going to be out there maintaining it?
Exactly.
Are you not gardening people.
Yes.
You want to be hands off.
And like areas that we had irrigation, where we didn't have irrigation,
Right.
like all those things took into account for what you designed for us.
Right.
And it was just really a cool experience. It was very fun. It was not intimidating, and we were so excited after seeing the 3D plans to get it executed. We're like, okay, let's do this. And it did fit into our budget. I was kind of shocked because I saw the 3D renderings and I was like, we're not going to be able to afford this, you know. And then when you kind of told us about the budgets, I'm like, oh,
Right.
actually, this isn't as bad. And then we kind of broke it up into 2 phases.
Right.
Because you did a lot of like the outdoor living for us that, again, like I didn't even envision. I had no idea that we could do that. I didn't
Right.
know some of those materials were even available to us for our backyard.
Yeah.
And so we're excited to do that with you next year.
Right.
And you're like, you know, let's just break this up in phases. Let's start here and
Right.
then let's move on. And so I love that you just made it so incredibly easy for us to make those decisions.
Well, thank you. I love hearing that. And to that point, I love working from a master plan. So, like, I gave you guys a plan for the front, back, sides, everything. This is the goal. This is what we want to get to. Your budget is this. For this, let's focus on the front and a little bit of the back now, because that's your priority. What's your priority, you know, next year, the year after, when you're ready for phase 2? And let's keep chipping off that master plan.
Yes.
And that way you're not wasting money with plants and time in a space that it's not going to work for your overall vision.
Exactly.
And we're thrilled with what we have. I'm pretty sure we've alluded to that already. But for the folks out there, for the audience, I know you do residential landscape
Yes.
architecture or design. But what else do you comprise in your services so people can be aware of what you can provide?
Yeah, I also do commercial. I've done House 820 and the joinery, kind of in the downtown area. I love working with event venues and spaces. I've done several of the little downtown restaurants. They'll come to me and say, I want my guests to feel like this. I want to convey this message. So for the joinery, they cared very much about vintage, old school Florida. You know, they want you to feel like you're immersed in that Florida lifestyle. So we use locally sourced limestone rock for the front patio. We use these beautiful palms that are self-shedding, which are easy to maintain.
Nice.
I used a lot of native plants. I used a lot of sea grapes. In the back, there are these
sea grape.
yeah, the 2 big sea grape trees. They just make you feel like you're at the beach.
Yes.
You know. And then at House 820, they have a lot of brides come through, weddings, and they, you know, a lot of times the bridal party will take their pictures out front. So I know I needed to keep it very minimalist, but we put in some gorgeous palms out front to really highlight the front of that building. Some big agaves, like statement plants that are going to look good as a backdrop in photos. But also left a lot of blank space for the bridal parties to kind of weave their way into the landscape as well.
Nice.
That's
Yeah.
really cool to
Yeah,
know.
it is good
Yeah.
to know.
And we love Lakeland, and so we eat downtown all the time.
Yeah.
And before I even knew you, Pat and I would be like, "Oh my gosh, it looks so much like 1961." I don't know. Did you do 1961?
I did 1961, yeah.
So I mean, we just love how that looks
Yeah.
out there. And then
Yeah, they were going, obviously it's a Latin restaurant. They wanted lush, tropical foliage,
Yeah.
modern planters, and so I tried to bring a lot of color before. If you remember, like when the city did that extension, it was
Yeah.
like a sea of pavers.
yeah, it felt like just a huge sidewalk.
It did, and I was like, okay, we need to bring some life. You know, plants, I love plants. They just bring so much life and color to a spot. So we did that modern planters outlining that that outdoor dining space, and now they hang string lights, and it's just so alive, and you
feels
feel
so much more intimate.
and it also feels more private. You know, you don't
Yeah.
feel like you're having your paella with, like, you know,
Yeah.
the street traffic right there.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
so, and the same with frescoes. They wanted, you know, the city bumped out that little deck kind of in what was parking spaces.
Yeah.
And it kind of felt, I ate there one time before, and it was like a little nervous, like, okay, this is great, but there's traffic right next to me.
Yes. But here's the car paralleling right next to where the table
Yeah.
is. Yeah, you need a little buffer.
Right. So I tried to make I put bamboo, and they wanted to go with more of a southern vibe. So I have lots of, if you go to like South Carolina, front porches like yours, there's a lot of plants, a lot of flower boxes spilling out with beautiful blooms. And so that's what I tried to do.
Oh, that's fantastic. And that's good to know.
Yeah.
So everything has a different look, and that's why I
Yes.
like to. I mean, just as an interior designer and a home stager, I never create the same space twice because I want everything to be unique.
Right.
And I feel like every house has its own heartbeat.
Yes.
But you kind of feel like that with the yards. Like
Right.
every house has, its own heartbeat.
Well,
outside
and,
too.
and it's so the inside of your house is all personal. It's personalized from your trips or your family photos and whatever. Like your outside should also be that and reflect you as a person. You don't want it to be cookie cutter. Everybody looks the same.
Yeah.
I get very excited for like theme projects. I had one. I think I sent you the video of it. She wanted like a Mediterranean / California vibe. So I created a California style garden in her backyard with like a terrace, and we're using Florida friendly plants, and it's beautiful. It's grown up over the last year, and it just transforms you into a different state almost, and so I love, if I did the same thing over and over again using the same 5 or 7 plants, I get so bored.
Yep.
I love hearing about people's themes that they're going for and visions, and I love, like, one of the last ones, she loves English rose gardens, and that was a challenge for me. I don't use a lot of roses, so I had to do a lot of research, and I had to, but I love doing that. It's almost like continuing education,
Yeah.
And
When you're
so-
learning
Yes.
in your business, it's
Yes.
always fresh.
Right.
And when you stop learning is when it gets boring.
Right.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I love taking on new challenges
Yeah.
as well because
Yeah.
then it makes you feel like you're like, wow, I did this.
I did,
you know?
yes.
And if I did this, I want to push myself a little
Right.
bit more. And I think it just also, just for the community's sake, I mean, we've had so many people, like I said, say our yard looks amazing, but it actually encourages us to like keep it looking awesome and
Right.
like excited about phase 2.
Yes.
And our neighbors are starting to like redo their yards now
Yeah.
too. So it's kind of like,
Keeping
Yeah.
up with the Joneses,
Yeah, our
I
next door
guess,
neighbors,
but-
as soon as they saw ours going in, they instantly started kind of clearing their stuff out and
Yeah.
making it look better.
Well, it's almost like a sense of community pride. It's like if
It is.
the neighbor
It's
next
motivating.
to you,
It's really motivating.
it is, yeah. If they're like, oh, my neighbor's taking pride and their yard is looking so nice, like, yes, I want to keep that going.
exactly.
Yeah.
So Ashley, I always like to ask, really anyone we ever work with, whether it's a landscaper or the sidewalk guy or the pool guy, like what's been your most favorite project that was just a home run that just exceeded your expectations and your clients? And then it's a backup question to that. What's been like the biggest PETA client or the one that went sideways?
PETA client.
Or the one that you've seen, you're like, I just wish I could get my hands on that because I know I could do something different.
Right. So the home run is the one I sent you the video of. It was
that
actually
was
one of
really
my
cool. Yeah.
first projects, and I think I sent you the before. And as the before, it was rough.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a sloped backyard, mostly dirt, random plants that didn't really go together, and they had a lot of drainage issues because the slope ran right into their back porch, and so every time we got a heavy rain, it would just flood. And so I was very proud of that project because we really transformed it. Instead of a slope, we terraced it now, and so they have this beautiful space to entertain. They actually just hosted an outdoor concert there.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
That
wow.
was really fun. And so that was my favorite, just getting to, I will say that it also had its challenges because the client fell in love with she wanted a statement piece. And so I came up with this silver Bismarck palm. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's like, They're the silvery ones. They get huge.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
I know what that looks like.
And
It
so-
almost looks whitish.
It's almost white,
Yeah.
and it's beautiful palm. So I'll kind of like tell on myself a little bit. This was my first project, and I was like, it's gonna be great. I ordered it from down south. It came up on a truck, and I had a tractor there to set it. The guys had already dug the hole. Well, we get there, and the tractor that I hired was trying to lift it off of the flatbed. What I did not intend for was for it to be grown in clay soil, and so the root ball was so massively heavy that it was heavier than the tractor I had hired. And so they went to lift it up, and the whole back end of the trailer the tractor just went like this, and I went, oh no! And so so I've got like 5 big work booted men just standing there like looking at me because they've got other stuff to do, and I've got all these contractors on site, and I'm like, give me a minute.
Oh my god.
And so I had to call actually another landscape company that I was friends with, and I was like, can you please come out here with another tractor? And he shows up, and I took a video of it. It's the most ridiculous thing. And so our tractor picked up the palm. His tractor put the bucket down on the butt of the first tractor to keep it balanced. And the 2 tractors rode up the hill together. It looked like a circus. It was an absolute circus. But it's working. It worked. It's in. It's beautiful.
That's a good story.
But that was nice to know other people in the
Yes.
industry come and save your butt.
And a good ending to a really complicated story.
Yeah, and then it's in, but in those moments, it's like 90% of owning a business is getting yourself out of these scenarios that pop up that you did not anticipate. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So.
And any other like nightmare crazy stories?
I have seen, and it's, I have a hard time. It's like not my business, but I'll be driving around town and I'll see someone put in beautiful, clearly expensive landscaping in the absolute wrong place. Like they've put in all shade plants because they're lush, tropical, beautiful foliage and blasting sun. And I'm like,
You're like, that's gonna die.
I almost want to knock on their door and be like, so this is all going to die. And I do. I kept driving by it, and over the next few weeks, I watched it all turn brown and die. And they probably have no idea why. But so that really does break my heart. Like, I don't want other landscapes to fail,
Right.
So yeah, I think when I see those things, I'm like, oh, I know they spent so much money, and that
You have to
hurts.
spend it again,
And you're
too.
gonna have
And
to
you're
spend it
spending
again,
again.
and you're not gonna know why it failed. So.
And then you're gonna be hesitant to do anything else again because
Exactly,
it died
and
the first
then
time.
like so many clients will say, I have a black thumb. I'm like, do you really? Or do you just have terrible luck picking plants? So, yeah.
Well, interesting.
Yes.
Those are fun stories.
Yep, good stories and good learning experiences too. Like for people watching this, they're like, better not be planting shady trees in full sun.
Right, you
Let's
have
do
to
my
pay
research.
attention, yeah. And irrigation is key. You have to, don't plant anything unless you have an irrigation system in place, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to be out there with a
Yeah.
hose every day while it's established, and
Yeah, that's no fun. Nobody has
No.
time for
Who has
that.
time for that?
Right,
Nobody.
right.
Nobody.
so.
Yes. Well, thank you, Ashley. That was good stories to hear, and I'm just glad that we were able to spend some time with you this morning and just have a little bit of a landscape design session with ourselves
101
and,
with everybody.
Yeah.
and with the audience. So thank you very much for coming out.
Well, thanks for having me. This was fun.